You're listening to the Holistic Hippie RN. I'm your host, Laura Gibby, quirky nurse, holistic healer, and transformational coach. Here to empower you to take charge and create balance so you become the green thumb of your life and begin consciously cultivating the life you desire, where you flourish and thrive. Think of this as the greenhouse of growing possibilities that will challenge your way of thinking through mindset shifting, holistic tips, and energetic up-leveling. I am so excited to have you here today, so let's get growing. Hello and welcome. I'm so excited for you to be here today. I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and it was a beautiful day. I love Mother's Day because it really gives me time to reflect and really appreciate my mom, but also reflect how I've grown as a mom. I think mothers are such special beings. They really are superheroes because all of the things that we learn becoming mothers, I feel like for me, myself, I learned so much seeing through the eyes of my child. And I feel like after having a child, I see so much differently. I approach things differently. It definitely gave me more of a more paused approach to life. It's almost like I can take a pause to assess and then act. And that's also related to mindset work. But I do feel like there's a lot of magic in being a mom and seeing the world through your child's eyes and seeing them grow. And for me, I often wonder, I look at my son and see how old he is now and wonder what I was doing at that age and how I was being at that age and the different things I said at that age. So it was a really great day, and I just love and appreciate my mom so much and all the things she taught me on how to be the light and sunshine everywhere I go, which is most days what I strive to do. I have been wrapping up the end of the school year because my son gets out of school, and this week is the last week, so I've been getting different things together. I just put together a new course, Energy Oils and Chakras. I am so excited about it because it literally is a miniature version of how I do my energy work, and I felt like it's a great tool to have in your toolbox to do your own energy work. A lot of us tend to think that, a lot of us tend to schedule the appointment to see someone to do energy work for us, or, maybe you think you need the certification to do energy work. But really, all throughout your life, you're doing energy work. You just might not be aware of it. Everything's energy, and every action you take is shifting and moving things. And when you do energy work, you're actually assessing things around you, and you're shifting energy. You're doing it mindfully versus just going about your day doing it without realizing it. For me, once I started doing energy work, I did realize how much more balance I created in my life, but also how much more stronger my intuition started feeling. I never really thought of myself as very intuitive, but I noticed when I started doing energy work, I got a lot more intuitive on tapping into understanding not only myself, but how others kind of tick. It just kind of opens up a whole new world, and I love that. And so I wanted to create a little miniature course so that other people could learn this too, because it's really something that can make huge changes for you. For me, it's kind of like it's good to go to the gym. It's good to exercise and work out your physical body. It's good to do things that are clear for your mind and help your mind be in the best shape possible, most positive outlook on things, and, confidence, things like that. It's good to keep your mind healthy, and just in turn, it's good to also keep your energy healthy. And when you're really keeping your energy cleared, when you're assessing and clearing and shifting your energy, and you're doing it from a mindful place, then you create a lot of balance. And all those three things are so connected in the sense of when you start exercising more, your mind becomes more balanced. You start shifting more energetically. When you start doing mindset work, you get more motivated to exercise, or, you're shifting your energy. So when you do energy work, it's the same thing. It shifts you into a new place for your mind and your body. And I think that's such a beautiful thing because there's 3 different areas in your life that you can take one and start taking action in one, and it will ripple into the other two. And that's what I love about the holistic model and holistic healing is by doing one thing in one area, it can create a ripple for the other two, and then you start picking up momentum with the other two. So definitely go check out my course. I think you're going to love it. If you have ever been curious about anything to do with energy, I highly recommend it. If you do have experience with energy work, it is a different method that I've used. A lot of times I've come across a lot of people who do Reiki, and this is different than Reiki, just a different technique that I used and learned. So check it out. I will include that in the show notes. I am really excited for this program. So I wanted to talk today about how oftentimes when we feel the need to justify things, it's usually a reflection of our own self-judgment. And I say that because typically when we justify things or make an excuse for something, sometimes it's because we think we will be judged, but that is also an underlying self-judgment. And usually the judgment we think we'll receive is the judgment that we're making for ourselves. I thought about this whole spaghetti noodle bowl of this in the sense of I don't make too many excuses for things anymore. I just kind of will say that I don't really want to do something and leave it at that because there's a certain type of energy that you put behind all of that. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But firstly, people tend to feel the need to justify something because they feel like it's something that they might not be supposed to doing, whatever the underlying judgment is. It might not even be a bad thing. It could just be whatever limiting belief they have ingrained in them. I would say one of the things I've grown up being able to do is really, really rationalize any kind of purchase I would like, or if I'm shopping with someone, any kind of purchase that they're considering making. It's really easy to look at something and rationalize why it's okay to buy it or why it's okay, to spend the money for it, which really you shouldn't need to justify that. The only thing you should ask yourself when you go shopping is, will this bring me joy? And I actually heard a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, this thing that I liked is, a year from now, will this bring me joy? And if you don't think it's going to bring you joy a year from now, then don't buy it. And I like that perspective because it's kind of like if it's not going to bring you joy in a year, then you probably don't really need it. For me, my other tactic I use is if it's something I'm considering and I'm thinking about in 3 days, then go back and buy it. And I think we live in a world where there's instant gratification. So things are so easily accessible that there's not as much delayed gratification for things because we have the ability to create instant gratification. And so it's oftentimes hard to walk away from something that you really want to buy because you're used to that feeling of instant gratification. And for me, that's when I know if I'm sitting there 3 days later thinking about what it was that I walked away from and didn't buy, that I really want to buy it. As opposed to, this is going to make this better in my life. This shirt will make my life better because I just love the color of it and it just is so flattering and it fits so perfectly and I just must have it. Whereas really it's kind of like, I like this shirt and I'm going to put it back. And in 3 days, if I still like it, then I'll come back. Or I like this shirt a lot, but will I still like it in a year? And, that's actually a much better approach as opposed to thinking of all the reasons for why you should have it. Because when you start trying to think of those reasons for why, it's because there's actually an underlying judgment of why you shouldn't have it, which you should really get more curious about the underlying reason why you feel like you shouldn't, and then disprove that because that's really attached to some sort of limiting belief that you might have, which is creating self-judgment. And the other thing that pops up for me is the sense of And I'm going to tie justifying things to excuses for things, because one of the big things that I find come up is making plans with people. And a lot of people, actually, I would also say with like financial things, but a lot of people will give a reason for why they're saying no to something, a really long reason sometimes. And it's kind of like, you don't need to do that. It's okay to say, I don't want to make these plans right now because of X, Y, and Z. Or I need to cancel these plans. You know, you don't need to attach on why you need to cancel plans. You know, if you call your child in sick to school, you don't need to give anything more than your child's not going to be in school. You know, things like that, because I think we get caught up in that we owe people a reason for why we're taking action on things, what our action is, what our reasoning is. We owe people that, and really you don't. All you do is get to choose yes or no. Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? If you're not vibing with it, then it's okay to say no, and also assess why you're saying no to something. You know, assess if it's because it's something that's not going to bring you joy, or if it's something that's giving you some discomfort because it's your next up level, because I do talk about that a lot, and there's a fine line between that. So I would say that it's better to give less information sometimes, because if people wanted more information, then you could give them more information. But it's more so the sense of when you're justifying or creating excuses for why you don't want to do something, it might not even technically be the actual reason, because the actual reason is this isn't aligned with me, and so I do not want to do it. That's the only reason you ever really need to give. But instead, we worry that we might hurt someone's feelings, or they might get mad at us, or they need the reason of why we're not doing something. Or, you know, even saying yes to something, people might need a reason. But it's the sense of, instead of just saying it doesn't align, we come up with something. And when you do that, you're putting that energy out there that, you feel the need to justify your actions, which ties into you think either they're going to judge you for your actions, which is a judgment, or you think that you're essentially judging yourself for your actions that you're choosing. You're essentially judging yourself for the reason why you're saying no, which you don't need to do. It's always okay to say no to things. When I was getting my psychology degree, there was a book that we had in the class that was called I Feel Guilty When I Say No. And I actually did not read that book, but I loved the title, because there's so many people that feel guilty when they say no to something that they just don't feel aligned with, that they don't want to do. And so oftentimes we're saying yes to all these things that we don't want to go do. And like I said, I think there's a fine line between not doing something that's not aligned with you, or not doing something because it's going to be uncomfortable but push you into your next up level. And I have a whole podcast episode on that. But more so the sense of understand why something doesn't feel like you want to say yes to it. Is it something that you could grow from, or is it something that you just don't feel like aligns with you, and so you don't want to go do it? And so what can we do to shift out of this? You know, you don't want to live in justifying energy, and you don't want to live coming up with the reasons for why you can't do something, because when you start doing that, you start creating it. Just like with affirmations, when you start saying these affirmations that bring more positivity, that shift you into new energy, that up-level you, well, it's because you're speaking them, reading them, you know, thinking them, that it shifts you. So what kind of energy are you bringing and standing in when you are making excuses for things you don't want to do, and you're justifying things because you're having this underlying judgment? It's going to keep you in this judgmental energy. It's going to create the things that you made the excuses for, you know? It's kind of like when you say, no, I don't want to do this, or, oh, I need to cancel my plans because my kiddo got sick. But maybe your kiddo didn't really get sick. You just didn't really want to go do the plans. Okay, well, then you're bringing in the energy of sickness coming into your household. And you don't want that kind of energy coming into your household, you know? Everyone in your family deserves to be their healthiest, wealthiest self. And that's the kind of energy you want to tap into. When you make an excuse for why you cannot do anything, you're putting too many words out there and you're writing your world around words like that. So it's oftentimes better to just minimalize your reasons for why you're not doing something. It's better to just, say, no, I'm just not aligned with that right now, instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't have the money to do it right now. Because when you say something like that, you're telling yourself and the universe and that you just don't have the money for it, And so then what happens is you don't have money in your life. Or you feel like you may have money in your life, but you feel like you don't have enough money. So then you're living in lack and you're limiting yourself. And my point of all of this is that I want you to see how when you put a certain type of energy behind what you're telling people and the reasons for why your actions are the way they are, when you start talking about that, you want to make sure that you're standing in your integrity and you're standing in your strongest, highest self. And when you do that, it keeps you aligned with your highest self. Because when you tap into judgment energy, then you just feel judged all around you. You judge yourself more. That's living in judgment energy. And that's what happens when you're justifying something or you're making an excuse based on feeling judgment, fearing judgment, or self-judgment. And like I said, a lot of times feeling like someone else is going to judge you is your own personal self-judgment. Because whether someone judges you or not doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're attaching a judgment of what you think they're judging you for. Oftentimes a lot of the things that you believe people to judge you for, it might not even be on their radar. It's the energy that you're putting out and feeling, as opposed to someone actually forming a judgment against you. And it really shouldn't matter if they do, because at the end of the day, you're the one that goes home with you. At the end of your life, you're the one that lived your entire life with you. In 5-10 years, is it going to matter if they had a judgment against you on something? The biggest thing is to tap into your vulnerability, your authenticity, your self-love, and work from there, your integrity, and work from there. Because when you stand in places like that, there's really not room to judge yourself, and there's not room to feel judgment from others. You want to live in this energy that's like the highest vibe self, full of love, full of happiness, full of joy. And when you stand in that energy, you bring in a lot of that, you bring more of that in. When you're living in those biggest, happiest feelings, you bring in more of those biggest, happiest feelings. When you look around your world and you see more abundance, you bring in more abundance. If you're living in lack and you look around your world and see all the stuff that you don't have, then you start bringing in more of what you don't have. So ultimately, you want to create from within yourself more of that. You want to shift that to where you start seeing all of the abundance and bringing all of the abundance in. One of the things I realized recently, actually I realized this a while ago, but now that I'm aware of it, it's kind of fun to watch, is that I'm very good at manifesting plants or propagations. I would say I'm really good at manifesting propagations. I can go to someone's house and I'll come home with a propagation because I just love going and visiting different plants. If I'm at someone's house, I kind of like to wander around and see the plants. And if it's a really good friend, then I wander around and I water the plants if they need water, and I started thinking about that energy. I was like, okay, what is the energy that I show plants that I can step into that energy of putting it towards, say, money, right? So what energy do I stand in with plants and how I'm being and serving that creates the magic of manifesting more plants? And I don't really have a house with tons and tons of plants. I have a good amount, I feel like, but it's just interesting how they come in very easily. Plants, easy, come in so easily. Other areas of my life, sometimes there's things that, I get blocked with and it doesn't flow in easily. And so the exercise there that I like to approach is the idea of who am I being? How am I serving that allows me to manifest unlimited plants? And that's good to look at your own life even. If you find that, say you're trying to make more money. Let's say that you'd like to make more money, but you're kind of getting stuck with it, right? Okay, well, somewhere there's different limiting beliefs, emotions around money, experiences around money. You know, you have what's going on around money. You have some junk around that. You have some energetic junk. But step aside from that and look at your life and look at where it is that things come to you easily. Is there somewhere in your life where things are flowing to you easily? And write that down. And think about, what type of person are you being that this flows to easily? And how are you serving others that this flows to easily? So in my case, I am being loving towards my plants, loving towards other people's plants. And I love talking to people about their plants. But I'm also serving them by going around and watering their plants, you know, and literally it's when I'm at someone's house that I know pretty well, but it's just something. I go to their house and they're like, okay, I know you're going to check out all my plants and see if they need water. And it's just a quirky thing, you know, but in doing so, I'm serving. And it's kind of something that I didn't recognize it as that. But when I think about how I'm being and how I'm serving, that's how I'm being. I'm being loving, caring, and and, you know, helping something in someone else's house thrive. So, and as a result, I'm manifesting more plants. You know, I'm creating magic in other people's houses. I'm bringing it with me, and I'm, you know, helping these plants thrive. And so I receive more plants. So think of, where in your life are you able to manifest already? And it helps when you start getting grateful for what's in your life and thinking of like, oh, I'm really grateful for this. I'm really grateful for this. Because then you start seeing the abundance that's in your life. And when you start seeing like, oh, I have food in my fridge. Well, how are you being to have the food in your fridge? You know, who are you being that brings an abundance of food into your fridge? You know, maybe books come to you easily. I don't buy a lot of books anymore, but I have access to so many, because between Amazon and the library, I can get just about any book I would like to read. And, you know, maybe you're a person that books come to you easily because you have lots of resources and books in your life. Well, who is the person that you are being to bring in all these good resources that you can learn from and grow from? Or, let's see, what could be another thing? Water is a very easy one. Who is the person that you are being that brings water to you? Well, you're being someone that is taking care of their body, and you're being someone that keeps yourself hydrated. And, you know, water is a very, very basic one. You can be so grateful for water, but not only that, but that is a form of self-love on your body, because you're nourishing your body with water. You're keeping it hydrated with water. When you put a little electrolytes in your water, you know, you're giving yourself that. So it's kind of the sense of, water is a very, very basic one that you can think of. How am I being that I can transition this into somewhere that I feel like I'm lacking? And when you do the mindset work around lack and abundance and shifting into abundance, that will also create more of something. But I feel like understanding how you're being for things that already flow massively into your life, and seeing what flows massively into your life, will help you when you approach something that you feel blocked with. For example, like we started with, was money. So if you're feeling blocked with money, then how are you being differently than you're being when you have this abundance flowing into other areas? And how can you approach money as if you were being this person who has the abundance flowing in to all those areas that you just identified? How can you bring that to your money story? How can you bring that towards how you're being with money? And who can you be and serve with money? So when you start identifying those things, it really starts to shift, because you're shifting that energy. You're bringing the energy of abundance from what you already see manifest easily in your life. You're bringing all that energy towards where you feel blocked. And that kind of shifts that block energy, because, you know, it's good to clear it. It's good to assess. It's good to understand it. But don't only do that, it's taking action and seeing how you're being. And when you start assessing that and you start bringing that, you're shifting the energetic vibration of how you were being to how you could be to, to the person who's going to make all the money, because you've taken the person who's abundant in a different area, you're self-abundant in a different area, and you're applying that to the area you feel like you're lacking. And so I think that's a really good exercise to try. I think it's huge to tap into that. It's definitely something that I've been teaching others, because I feel like it's a really good exercise that you can utilize in your life. I noticed it in the sense of when I started thinking about the energetic shifts I had and the up levels over the recent years. And then I come up with the blocks. I'm like, wait, how am I being differently in these blocks versus how was I being when I up leveled? And when you start standing in that, then you're aligning with what you would like to create. You're aligning with creating more of what you would like. You're aligning with clearing the blocks that have been blocking you. Because when you're living in a place of abundance, there's not room for a place of lack. So when you clear the lack block, when you clear the limiting beliefs of why you can't have something, because you're being a person who can have it all, then you start to have it all. And that's the really cool thing with energy, I feel like, is we shift so easily when we start stepping into things like that. When we start stepping into just, embodying the person that we would be being if we had what we would like. And that's why embodiment is huge. That's why affirmations assist us. They're a great tool to have, because they help start creating and opening your eyes to having that in your life. Once you start opening your eyes and seeing where it's already at in your life, then you can start attracting it into your life where you would like it to be more of. So I definitely went on a tangent with that, but I actually love that tangent I went on, because it's something I've been pondering lately as far as my plant magic that I bring for how I'm being, and applying that in other areas of my life. And I want you to try that. I want you to assess the person you're being and how you're serving in your most abundant areas of life. And, take a pen and pencil and write it down, even if it's just a list of what you notice you're doing. Write that down, and then kind of start to brainstorm, okay, how can I be this person? And write it down, because it helps to write it down. One, because you can review it, and two, because your brain gets to see it also. But write down, okay, how can I be this person that I've been being in my most abundant areas of my life? How can I be this person to shift out of the place that I feel like I'm lacking in? Because you want to shift out of the lack mindset, and embodying the person that you're already being in other areas of your life is really going to make a massive shift, because you're already doing it somewhere in your life. You already know how to do it. So take that and apply it towards shifting out of lack. And the more you do that, the more it's going to ripple through your life and clear out other areas where you might be lacking, or where you might have, something that's blocking you. It doesn't have to be lack, but where you're feeling stuck, blocked, where you like that kind of like, ugh, kind of stuff. It'll start clearing out when you start applying being and serving towards that, and getting that abundant energy flowing everywhere. So I hope that gives you something fun and great to do over the next week. And until next time, take care.